This is the Radio Scilly Video News, brought to you in association with Worldwide Financial Planning. For advice on inheritance tax, business finance, mortgages, debt consolidation, investment and pensions, Matt Hyam from Worldwide Financial Planning is on the islands at the Atlantic Hotel on the first Thursday of every month. The Radio Scilly Video News also brought to you in association with Truro and Penwith College. Find out about courses you can enjoy here on the islands or on the mainland at truro.ac.uk and listen out for one of 365 great reasons to visit Truro College every day on Radio Scilly.
You've been on the island since 1989.
Yes.
What was the attraction, the allure of Scilly? What brought you here?
Well, we came here first of all in 1982 for a holiday, and somebody said, don't go for more than a week, you might get bored. Well, we came here and we really enjoyed it. Then we came back the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and then we started coming twice a year, and finally in 1989, I was 60 and I could retire, so we moved here permanently. But one of the main attractions was we were interested in sailing, and we had a dinghy then, and we used to bring our own dinghy here because it's lovely sailing. And then we bought a larger boat, and now we have a 23-foot leisure that we can spend the night on. So, but most of all, it was the people. They were lovely people, and one felt safe here. It was friendly, and we found when we moved here that it was easy to integrate, provided you didn't try and change the way of life. Some people come here and want to change it, and they don't usually stay. But it was just the whole atmosphere of the place. Perfect.
How long was it before you decided to get involved with local politics here?
Well, I came off St Albans Council in 1983, having served 13 years. And when we came here, I thought, well, I'm going to have a rest from politics now, or retire from politics. And then we'd been here just about 7 years, and somebody said, why don't you stand for the council? So I stood for the council as an independent. I was interested, and they made me vice chairman of planning. And from then I went on, actually. Myself and Jerry Twynham and John Barson resigned in protest of the way it was done. That was after 4 months. And then I thought, well, that's it. This was in 2001. That's it. And then in 2005, somebody said, why don't you stand again? Well, I must admit, I felt that I wanted to get involved again, and I thought it was far better to be inside the tent trying to do something than sniping at them. So I rejoined the council, and then they made me chairman of planning, to my surprise. Then I stood again, as you know, in 2009, and I'm still enjoying it.
A bit of a populist, though, with the vote. You always seem to represent the views of the people when there's a strong issue.
No, I'm not a populist. I'm what you might call an amateur politician. On the mainland, I had a marginal seat. And I don't think you can assume anything. You have to let people know what you think. And once you get onto the council, you have to support people's causes. It's not being a populist. It's called listening to what people think. It's called democracy.
You don't talk very much about your career in electronics. I mean, what did you do?
I was an electronic engineer. I trained at Marconi Instruments and went to college part-time there. I became a chartered engineer. And I worked, after Marconi's, I worked at de Havilland Propellers on missiles, defence contracts. And then I worked for 20 years at a small private company which supplied instruments to education and the defence industry. And then I joined GEC in let me think, stop a minute.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. That's it. I joined GEC in 1981. In 1982, that's because the company I was in went downhill. I was made redundant. I was very fortunate. I got a suitable payoff, and I kept the company car. Then I got a better job at GEC as a project officer, and then I ended up in the end as the business. Oh, sorry, again. I got a job at GEC as a project officer, and then I ended up at GEC General Signals as a business manager. That made railway signalling equipment and all that. And then in 1989, I resigned from there. I was 60. I took my pension and came here.
Were you inspired then by the sort of the folk protest singers, Tom Paxton, people
Oh
like that?
yeah, and Bob Dylan. Oh yes, all that kind of protest stuff. I used to enjoy it because it meant something. It meant what people were feeling. There was a revolution about it. It was getting away from your stereotype stuff, and there was something there, something to move ahead to. And the young people, they seem to like these days. You know,
Do you think it's because young people maybe today are pretty well off and quite comfortable and they don't strive for anything?
it may be they're having it too easy. I don't know, but there's some reason for it. But certainly, I was brought up in a poor background, but that was not the reason. The reason was I wanted to know what was going on in the world. I used to read about it and watch the news and all that. I thought there's something wrong with society here because everybody in the old days, we had to know our place. Well, I'm afraid I didn't.
The authorities going in and the islands as well. Are there any hopes, objectives you'd like Scilly to achieve? Are there any things that you're fearful of?
Fearful? I'm not fearful of things. I am worried at the moment about the helicopter service, and until that unfolds, I'm rather apprehensive about what might happen. So that's my. I'm rather apprehensive of that. It's very important that we have a reliable link to the mainland, and I just feel sometimes we're so vulnerable.
And you have mentioned a number of times it's. I mean, you've even been on a holiday to see it, haven't you? A chunk of the Canaries that could fall into the sea and mean curtains for the islands.
Yes, we went to La Palma this year, and we actually saw the string of volcanoes that, of course, the fault, and it can happen, that a piece of land the size of the Isle of Man could slide into the sea. It could happen tomorrow, it may be 200 years. But all the evidence is there, and not just from me, but from evident scientists. If that happened, it would cause a tidal wave, a tsunami, that would sweep across the Atlantic to the eastern seaboard of America, and it could cause up to a 40-foot tidal wave here. It could happen. Now, it's no good saying it will never happen. Look what happened in the Far East of recent years. It can happen.
Is it worth worrying about, though? I mean, that'd be the end of the islands, really, wouldn't it, if that happened?
It's not. I don't worry about it every day, but I am very conscious that it might happen, and I think we should have some emergency planning to get to high ground in the 6 hours' notice that we'd have. You'd have no more than 6 hours' notice.
How do you think you can get younger people actually wanting to play an active part?
That's a very good question, or that's the politician's answer, isn't it? The answer is I don't know. At every election, I do sound out younger people and say, look, there's an election in 4 weeks' time, or whatever it is. Are you interested in standing for the council? I've done this time and time again on younger people, or middle-aged people, younger than me. And in the end, I find it extraordinarily difficult. Quite often, some of the people who'd make the best councillors are busy earning a living, or some say, I'm not going to join that lot. Well, if somebody's going to moan about the council, if they've got the time, they should join it and try and make a difference, not snipe from the outside. Come and join us and try it, but how to make them, I honestly don't know.
When you get to enjoy Scilly, where would you play out your perfect day? Where's the place that you enjoy being the most?
Oh, there's no doubt. When we go out in our boat, we go to an off-island. We often go to Briar, up the channel there. We sometimes spend a night on the boat there, or we go to Agnes. We have been down to the Bishops, but a perfect day to both of us is to get in the boat and go out and forget the council, forget everything, and just concentrate on the beauty of the sea and the islands. And we do enjoy it sometime when it gets a bit rough, because it's a challenge then. Yes, boating is the number one thing.
And while you're doing that in your perfect location, the perfect song to listen to would be?
Perfect song? My perfect song.
Or artist?
Artists? I like Bob Dylan. Yes, I like Bob Dylan. I like his voice and I like his stuff he writes. It has a message. And that message is still there after 40 odd years.